Accessing and navigating prognosis, user interface theme, homepage, and navigating practice management. For users who have practice management access, the user interface theme is the same as regards the color palette, icons, and navigation. As all billing staff user profiles are created under Medics Type BL. This is covered in the Creating User Profiles for Practice Management video. Even for those users who require both clinical and billing access, when on the practice management side of prognosis, it is the same theme for all users. As to the overall structure of practice management, the presentation of the data on the home page is very similar to that on EMR. This allows billing staff access to a day's schedule and activity without necessarily requiring EMR access. In this video, we're going to discuss this layout. Now, a similar video also exists here on our Resource Center regarding the EMR homepage, so some of this information is repeated in both. You'll see here that I'm logged in as Quinn Perkins, who is a biller. Across the top of the page, in the upper left, will be the clinic name and logo, as well as a welcome, and that will state the user's name. And that will remain static throughout the entire duration of that specific session. That way that you will always know who is logged in on that specific computer. Now moving down under the banner in the upper left, we have navigation arrows. Now in my example right now, since I have not loaded any pages into my temporary internet cache, they're both grayed out. Because Prognosis operates on a internet cloud-based platform, there is a temporary cache of pages loaded. So as you are using the system, these arrows will become enabled to allow you to go back and forth through the 20 most recent pages accessed. You always have the ability of returning here to the home page by clicking the little house icon. This banner also remains static throughout the entire session. Now the next feature here on our home page, to the right of our home icon, we have our module tabs, which are also called menus. Now these are all covered in separate videos as to the functional details underneath, but briefly, the patient tab here gives you access to patient level and scheduling level details without having to toggle into EMR. Claims will give you the opportunity of reviewing, creating, and sending claims. Remittance has all of your patient payment and insurance payments, links to write-offs and adjustments and refunds. AR follow-up has different links for working your denied claims, outstanding claims, assigning tasks that need to be followed up on, sending collection letters. We have our messages, which is exactly the same as in EMR, including attaching and scanning, various levels of reports, including user reports, daily reports, aging, as well as management, and then also your settings and configuration. And then to the far right of that, we have our system tray of icons. Now, again, this is static throughout the session, so you will always be able to access these system level icons, regardless of what activity is going on down here below. The presence or absence of icons here depends upon a couple of factors. For example, this icon called Switch to EMR. It will only be present for those who have a valid EMR access role as well as their practice management role. When on the EMR side, the label will actually show as Switch to Billing. For those who only have billing access, this icon will not display at all. The purpose is for those who do require dual access, they can easily navigate between the two systems. Next, we have our Universal Patient Search icon. On the practice management side, this will open up the patient account screen. We also have the compose message. Now for users, this will actually open up a non-modal pop-up so that you can compose a message in a separate pop-up window without stopping what you're doing on the main page. That is different from when you go under the Messages Compose option on the tab. There will also be an icon that appears as needed, indicating when you have new alerts that you have not read. Now, if there are no unread alert messages, this icon will not display at all. When it does display, it's an indication that new urgent messages have come in that you have not yet read, and it will open up your inbox so that you can view those messages. We have access to our Client Resource Center, where you can access videos such as the one you're listening to right now, as well as other written documentation and FAQs. We have the internal help system, which is an index of topics. We have the system help about, which gives you version information. Sometimes you may be asked upon that when you're contacting the help desk for various technical support issues, that they may need to know what patch level you are currently on. The lock icon allows you to lock the session, and then when you come back to your desktop, you simply have to enter your password to unlock that session instead of having to do a complete login again. And then we have the log out. Now, if you log out, you have to completely log back in, which includes the username and password. And it defaults to the home page again, whereas with locking it, it lets you pick up your session where you previously had locked it. So that's the static level information at your home page that is always viewable no matter where you are within the system. Now, below the system banner, where we have our user homepage introduction statement, we have a shortcut dashboard to our inbox, which gives us a count of unread as well as urgent or pending items. The number in black representing the number of alerts or messages that have not yet been read, and the number in red in parentheses represents the number of alerts or urgent messages or pending to-do items that still need action. We have the hyperlink to actually open up the entire inbox, so we can then work our messages accordingly. Now, you notice now that I have loaded pages, my arrows are becoming active. The two tabs down here are appointments and visits. These are both tied to the schedule, but they have subtle differences. For every user that logs in, the appointments tab will initially default, and it will always default to the current system date. As we see here, I'm recording this video on Monday, December 15th, 2014. Up here next to the calendar date, we do have navigation arrows. So if we move to the left, 1 day previous, or we can move to the right, 1 day forward. We've also got the calendar icon, which will allow us to choose a completely different day, month, or year, and then quickly return back to the current day. For the most part, the schedule area is going to be static, especially when you're viewing historical dates. However, during the current date, you will notice as you are watching this video, the screen is going to appear to periodically blink. There is a built-in auto refresh on 60-second intervals, so that for the current day's activity, you will always be able to know what's going on at the front desk on the clinical side. And that will be reflected here in the visit status column. For instance, the ones that still show as scheduled are patients who have not yet arrived, and you'll see those that are ready for nurse, with medical assistant, with doctor, and so on. The far right column then is going to be your bill status. Now, obviously, on the current day, your bills have not been created yet, so you can see that the bill status is going to show as none. In conjunction with the day that is being viewed, each user can also personalize based on these filter options. First of all, for multi-provider practices, you can choose which provider or provider combination you would like to view. So if your billing staff is divided amongst the providers in your office and you don't want to see all of the claims that you're not going to be working, then you can filter it. For instance, maybe Quinn is only responsible for billing Dr. Cooper's patients. So we can filter out all of the other doctors by choosing Dr. Cooper only, and then that greatly reduces the claims that she is seeing on her work list. Similarly, for multiple locations, if you're only working one location, you can filter the contents accordingly. Now, the thing to remember with regards to using personal filters, this will become the new default for the user. The standard default behavior in Prognosis is that everybody with billing access will see all providers for all locations. Once you have set a custom filter, that will become the new default for that user until you change them again. That's important to remember because let's say Quinn, for instance, has filtered herself to view only Dr. Cooper's, and now her coworker is out of the office, and so now she needs to work Dr. Butler's claims. If she goes into her homepage, she will not by default see Dr. Butler's claims unless she goes in and modifies her filters. Now, the second tab here is called Visits. The subtle difference between visits and appointments is you will notice on our Visits tab, we do not have the date, the navigation arrows, or the calendar. The Visits tab is cumulative and is reflective of every encounter started on the EMR side that a provider has not yet completed and signed off. Most of the time, these will not have claims associated. However, you will notice here on some in the far right column, we do show ready to bill. That's an indication that somebody has manually forced that claim through. But if you look at the EMR status, they are still showing with doctor or with nurse, which is an indication that clinically speaking, the chart is not completed. So before you send the claim out the door, you may want to verify to make sure the codes do not get changed. This is all decided when you do your billing setup. Most of the time, claims are auto-generated when the doctor signs off and closes the encounters. But there is always the provision, as we discuss in the Creating Claim video, that you can create claims on demand as needed. So together, the Appointments and the Visits tabs comprise the biller's workload. The Appointments tab allows you to keep track of a given date schedule. And historically, this is very beneficial because obviously once a date has passed, that date is not going to change. And it will be reflective even of no-shows, claims that were billed, not billed. Visits then is going to be everything pending that doctors have not followed up on. And being filterable by date, you can very easily follow up behind the doctors to make sure that they're getting their charts done. Now moving back up here across the top portion of our schedule, previously we talked about our inbox messages hyperlink. To the right of that here, we have these 4 tables. These are our billing productivity summaries. These summary tables are visible for all users who have access to the billing system. They are designed to give you at a glance a snapshot of your claim as well as your payment activity. And then over here in the far right, a snapshot of your outstanding AR at any given moment. Now these totals are real-time and cumulative based upon what data is being represented. Now the first column here, ready to send, is dealing with claims. Now these are claims that have been generated, touched by the biller, and marked as ready to send, but they have not yet been sent to the clearinghouse. So these are quote-unquote clean claims. If we click on the hyperlink, it will tell you exactly which claims they are as far as the date of service, the claim ID, the patient information, and the insurance company. The not posted is dealing with payments. Our remittance column is insurance. It gives you a summary here based on the remittance number, and you'll be able to see whether it's an electronic remittance or a manual EOB, who the insurance is. Receipt is patient payments that have come in after the date of service, and then a total of those two together. Now, not posted means that the monies have come into prognosis, they have been entered into the system, and are setting in an apportion to status, but have not yet been committed. This not posted bucket is very important to keep an eye on, especially on days when you know your statement cycle is going to run. You want to make sure that these balances are set to 0 before your statements get generated. Otherwise, you run the risk of generating an incorrect statement, which of course could spawn some confused patients, phone calls, complaints, and so on. The collection to day summary is usually used to compare to your deposits for a day's activity. Copay is going to be the front office collections at the front desk. Usually that reflects your date of service payments. Remittance is insurance monies that are coming in through the back end after the fact. And then receipts are your patient receipts after the fact. These balances will get reset to 0 every night at midnight. They are reflective of day's activity, and it has no bearing on whether they are posted or not. So whereas our previous bucket here, the money has been entered into the system, regardless of whether it was collected today or a previous day, it has just not yet been committed to the account. Collection today is reflective only of the computer system date and resets every 24 hours. Now the outstanding claims summaries will be cumulative and ongoing. As long as your practice remains open with outstanding AR, these balances should not go to 0. This is a reflection of claims that you have actually billed out, but have not yet been paid in full as far as your prognosis accounting is concerned. This is reflective of the buckets as to where the balance is showing due. Again, we have our hyperlink so that if you need to print a quick glance summary based on insurance breakdown, the patients within that insurance, and the dollar amounts. Patient balances. These are balance after insurances. Again, when you're going to run a statement cycle, your patient balances in conjunction with patient receipts not posted are going to be reflective of what goes in the mail to the patients. The employer balance then is if you do employer billing. These are invoices outstanding based on an employer relationship. If you do not do employer billing in your practice, this total will be a total of your outstanding insurance plus patient combined. Now below these summary tables, we have our row of patient-focused icons. These icons are different than our system-level icons we spoke of earlier at the top level of our application. Patient-focused icons are going to give you shortcuts to the specific patient you have selected down here in your schedule area. So for instance, right now I have Harry Babbs selected. So if I wanted to go into Harry Babbs patient register or insurance or eligibility, I would choose the icon, and since Harry Babbs is selected in blue, I would get the appropriate details for that patient. If I come down here and choose George Geraldo, Priya Kuthrapalli, the same is true. Now, all of these icons are covered in separate videos as far as the functionality, so I'm not going to go into each one of them, but just from left to right, we do have patient details. That is your patient demographics. We have patient insurance, eligibility details. That is if you're using the Prognosis online eligibility. We have patient alerts, billing notes, and those two are shared across EMR and practice management if you use both modules. We have our shortcut to the claim details page. It looks like a CMS 1500. We have a patient statement. We have a patient account shortcut, a link to the current encounter for that claim. That does not require that you have necessarily a login to EMR, but it will allow you to view the encounter for that claims visit. We have the co-payment screen in case payments were collected at the front desk, appointment history, and then legal documents, which is your e-signatures if you are using those in your practice. So in review, the user interface theme for the practice management is the same for all users. Similar to EMR, there are navigation arrows as well as a return to home icon, system level menu tabs, system level icons, which are visible at all times while using the application. However, unique to the practice management homepage, there are activity and productivity tables, which allow you at a glance to keep an eye on your biller and cashier's productivity, as well as the outstanding AR for the practice. There's also patient-focused icons so that you can quickly get into certain details of a patient's chart. And finally, using the Appointments and Visits tabs, your billers are able to personalize their filters to create custom work lists. That concludes this video within the series. Please click the appropriate link below for your next step. If you'd like to take a quiz, you will receive your results in real time directly on the screen so that you can see how well you've done. If you answer incorrectly, the system will prompt you with the correct response. In addition, a confidential email will be sent to the education team to help us better serve you with our educational offerings. Second, advance to the next video within the series you're currently in. And finally, return to the video library main page. As always, feel free to contact us through the Resource Center or email with any additional questions or comments.